All right, we've got another blending mode. This one is called overlay. But first, again, just to kind of get you guys used to this, not open, but place embedded so that it's coming in as another layer. I'm going to use one of these tree branches ones to add a little bit something different. Hit place. Again, we don't want to have these edges being shown when we blend, so we're going to make it all the way to the corner and edges there. Either hit enter or this check mark. Okay, so the blending mode we're going to use now is called overlay. Um, if you double click or right click and choose blending options, come in here to overlay. Now this whole section is darkening, darker colors come through, lighter colors come through here. We've played with both of these. Of course, they show up differently than they did in the other images. It works different with every different photo. And then there's overlay that does a little bit of both. It uses the dark end and the light end. So we're going to look at things. And of course, remember you can adjust how much something is showing up in these blending modes here. But I'm just going to click OK. Now, what's different about overlay is it changes depending on which of these images on top and which is on bottom. With a screen and darken, didn't matter. It worked the same way no matter the order. But this one, it actually changes depending which one's on top. So to see that, quick way to change the blending mode without controlling it much, I'm going to go right here, go back to normal. I'm going to unlock my background, and then I'm going to drag it up here. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same blending mode we just did, overlay, but we can see it looks a lot different. Okay, very, very different compared to the first one. So I'm going to, just so we can remember what that looks like, I'm going to go back to normal, drag and drop to swap back, and I'm going to do overlay on that top one so we can see how it shows up there. Very different options. Um, you can also play with doing things with black and white again. So let's say I want to keep the blue sky, but I'm going to make our portrait photo black and white. You can see there only the blue color shows through. If I want the whole thing to be black and white, I can just drag this up to the top and see how that works as well. Um, Now remember, these are all separate layers. So if I want to click and drag and move things around, if I don't like where the branches are, I can click on that, click and drag as long as we're not seeing the edges of those photos. So if I go over here, we don't want to see that edge show up. That's not good. But we've got dark backgrounds. We've got a lot of room to work with. You want to get it right where you want. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to play with this. Play with where black and white is, whether it's there at all, which one's on top, which one's on bottom. So this is, again, working with a darker background photo. So I'll switch over here to this one that we're using with the lighter background, just so we can see how it changes again. So I'm going to do overlay. So you can see here it looks pretty similar, but it is showing up more in those darker areas too. But just to swap, I'm going to turn that background layer off, go back to normal on this layer, swap these two, and go down to overlay. And you can see it barely shows up there. So one way to do that, if we want to adjust things, um, we can we can darken this photo or lighten this photo. So let's try that. Let's do brightness and contrast. It's only going to affect what's below it. So I'm going to turn that brightness down. Okay, we can see him show up a little bit more. What about the contrast? Okay, if we turn it up or down, it shows up a little bit more than there as well. Brightness and contrast is a great way to kind of change and control how much is showing up from one photo to the next. So it's yet again another way to play with these blending modes. In the past, screen was the lighter colors coming through, darken was the darker colors coming through, and now overlay deals with both light and dark, but it changes depending which layer is on top and which layer has the blending mode effect on it. So play around with that, get you some overlay examples, make your photos really unique, and get those submitted.